Our whole world, our whole economy, it kind of runs on this really simple but honestly pretty dangerous idea. We take stuff, we use it, and then we just throw it away. But what happens when away isn't really a place anymore? What do we do when we just run out of room? So let's get into it. Okay, take a look at this. This isn't just a cool picture. It's it's the perfect metaphor for where we're at right now. On one side, you've got this relentless consumption, just taking and taking. And on the other, well, that's the living, breathing part of our planet that we all need to survive. We're literally eating away at the green on our own world. And this number? 90%. This, right here, is the core of the problem. Get this, over 90% of all the raw materials we pull out of the ground are wasted. A lot of it after just a single use. Just let that sink in for a second. That's not just inefficient, it's a system that's just fundamentally broken. All right, so before we can even talk about the solution, we've got to get really clear on what the problem is. And that problem has a name. Economists call it the linear economy. So what in the world is a linear economy? Well, honestly, it's pretty much what it sounds like. It's a straight line, a one-way trip. You make something, and from that moment, its final destination is already decided. The dump. There's no turning back. The whole thing breaks down into 4 super simple steps. 1, we take resources from the planet. 2, we make stuff out of them. 3, we use that stuff, and let's be real, a lot of the time it's just for a few minutes. And 4, we dispose of it. We just throw it away. Yeah, it's a simple way to make things, but it's also incredibly, unbelievably destructive. And you see this literally everywhere. I mean, think about it. The plastic wrap on your sandwich, that trendy shirt you bought that's maybe designed to last a season, or your smartphone, which is basically built to be obsolete in, 2 years? All of these are classic examples of that take, make, waste thinking. Now, this system, it doesn't just create these giant mountains of trash. It also comes with a huge, and I mean huge, price tag. And that's a price we pay both environmentally and, believe it or not, financially. And get this, if we just keep doing what we're doing, the World Bank says our yearly waste is going to skyrocket to 3.4 billion tons by 2050. Just try to picture that. That's a 70% jump from where we are right now. Insane. So where does all this stuff actually go? Well, for the most part, it ends up in one of 2 places. Option 1, a landfill. We just bury it, and it sits there forever, leaking toxic sludge into the soil and pumping out methane, which is a super potent greenhouse gas. Option 2, we burn it. Incineration. Sure, you get some energy, but you're also pumping CO2 and a bunch of other nasty pollutants into the air. Neither one is a good option. They're both dead ends. And here's where it gets really serious. This connects directly to the biggest crises we're facing as a planet. The whole engine of this linear economy, the constant digging up and processing of resources, is the single biggest cause of biodiversity loss. And on top of that, it's responsible for more than half of all our greenhouse gas emissions. It's a massive problem. This also just shows how dumb it is from a financial standpoint. Governments are jacking up the price to throw things away. Like in the UK, the cost to dump a ton of waste in a landfill has gone through the roof. And at the exact same time, we are literally throwing cash in the garbage. The EU, just by itself, loses an estimated 600 billion euros every single year just in materials that we could have easily recovered and used again. It's just lost value. Okay, but it's not all doom and gloom. There is a better way. There's another model, one that takes that straight line and bends it into a circle. And this is the promise of the circular economy. So in a circular economy, the whole concept of waste is basically designed out of the system from day one. Products don't have an end of life. Instead, they have an end of service. And when they're done, their parts become the raw materials for the next generation of products. It's all about keeping valuable stuff in use, not just chucking it in a hole in the ground. And really, it all comes down to 3 core ideas, which are actually pretty simple but super powerful. Number 1, design waste and pollution out of the picture right from the start. Number 2, keep products and materials circulating for as long as possible, by reusing, repairing, and recycling them. And number 3, we need to actively help our natural systems regenerate, instead of just constantly taking from them. Now, the game plan for making this a reality is something called the waste hierarchy. And the number 1 priority at the very top is super simple. Just prevent waste from being created in the first place, right? If you can't do that, then reuse it. Can't reuse it? Okay, then recycle it.
And you'll notice what's way down at the very bottom of the list: disposal. Yeah, throwing things away, the main event in the old system, is now the absolute last thing you should ever do.
And look, this isn't just some pie-in-the-sky academic idea. All around the world, governments and businesses are already starting to make this happen, for real.
Just look at Asia. We're seeing some huge economies take some really bold steps. China, for instance, banned imports of plastic waste, which basically forced the country to figure out how to deal with its own stuff. India's making companies responsible for the packaging they create. Japan has its famous 3R, Reduce, Reuse, Recycle initiative. And Thailand is even building its entire economic model around these circular ideas.
So how do we make this happen everywhere? Well, the experts say there are basically 5 key parts to this puzzle. First, you need governments to lead the way with strong policies. Second, you need good data so you can actually track materials and see what's working. Third, you've got to create incentives that reward businesses for going circular. Fourth, you need the actual infrastructure, the systems for repair, reuse, and recycling. And maybe the biggest piece of all, we need a massive cultural shift in how all of us, as consumers, think about what we buy and how we use it. And we're already seeing this happen. The UNDP, for example, is helping countries like Vietnam bake circularity right into their national plans. And over in Serbia, there's this really cool project that's funding local innovation. I'm talking everything from turning old glass into amazing new designs to actually bringing informal waste pickers into the formal system, which is incredible. So, okay, what's the big payoff here? What do we get from making this huge shift? Well, the benefits aren't just a little bit better, they are absolutely transformative. Check this out. One estimate says that by switching to a circular economy, we could unlock something like $4.5 trillion in economic benefits, and that's just by 2030. So this isn't about giving up on economic growth. Not at all. It's about finding a much smarter and way more sustainable way to grow. And that money, it doesn't just magically appear, right? It comes from creating whole new industries. Just think about all the jobs that would be created in repair, in refurbishing things, in remanufacturing, in high-tech recycling. It's a model where everybody wins. It's good for the planet, it's good for people, and it's good for the bottom line. There's a quote from the UNDP that just perfectly sums up where we are right now. It says, "We're at a crossroads, and the choice couldn't be clearer. On one side, you have the throwaway economy, and on the other, you have a future that's circular, inclusive, and resilient. We have to choose, and choose wisely." So, the real question isn't if our take-make-waste system is going to end. It is. Its expiration date is coming up fast. The real question, for every single one of us, is this: what are we going to build in its place?